On this edition of the program, what the hell is going on with that special election in Florida? We break down progressive activist Kat Abu running for Congress in Illinois and how AI is going to affect campaigns going forward. Big conversation with Michael Cohen. But before we get to that, I need to tell you some news here up top. And that is Elise Stefanik. Elise Stefanik, a rising star in the Republican Party, thought to be a front runner for Donald Trump's vice presidential nomination, then named to the cabinet as the UN ambassador until today, when she was asked by Donald Trump to remove her name from nomination for the UN and return to the House, despite the fact that she has been on a farewell tour to her district for the last few weeks. Beep, beep, beep. You know, sometimes you got to back it on up like a U-Haul truck, and that is what the Trump administration has done with this. So, let's get into the whys. We mentioned before that there is a special election in Florida. We're going to talk about that more with Michael Cohen in a second. But big, flashing, scary poll out from somebody who's very good at this. The polling firm Fabrizio Ward. Tony Fabrizio is Donald Trump's pollster. That dude knows Florida. He knows how to poll for MAGA. And he says that fine, the Republican, is only up 3 in a district that Donald Trump won by 30. 30. Not but a few months ago. Now, why is this the case? I think I'm going to try and dig into this a little bit more. Well, I guess I don't know if we'll have an opportunity to. I'll dig into it more before the election, so when we actually get a result next week, I can fill it in for you. But it has to have a little bit to do with candidate quality on some level. And then there's the fact that Democrats have outspent Republicans by $8 million plus. So you've had a lot more air traffic for the Democratic challenger to the Republican incumbent. And I think it's because the Republicans are like, hey, look, we don't need to deal with it. Okay, well, you better be sure, because right now this is in dangerous territory. So the assumption today, at least among some pundits, is that Donald Trump knows these numbers. He feels that the country is turning against him, and he doesn't want to risk Elise Stefanik's seat. To that I say maybe. I don't know for sure, but it seems a little bit too cute to me. And it doesn't feel like Trump. Here's what I do think might be the case, and this is something that a lot of people are overlooking. So Elise Stefanik has not officially resigned from the House. When she resigns from the House, Kathy Hochul will have 90 days to fill her seat or call for a special election to fill her seat. Obviously, Kathy Hochul is a Democrat. She is in no interest in doing the Republicans any favors, and so she will probably delay that as much as possible. So even if Kathy Hochul were to start that clock today, right? So Elise Stefanik were to resign today, that puts you at, so we're at the end of March now, end of April, end of May, end of June. We are getting to the point where it would be likely that there would not be a special election in time for that vote to be there for the big reconciliation package. And if that's the case, then in a thin majority in the House, you are, going to be really stringently watching that vote count. Let's also remember that the House and Senate kind of got on the same page this week, which means they know what they feel they are going to go with, and they know their vote count. But wait, there's more. There is currently a bill in the New York State House in Albany that would allow the governor to delay any special election to the next general election. Meaning that if this law passes, Kathy Hochul would be allowed to delay that vote until 2026. That means that Republicans would not have access to that seat, not only for this year's legislative session, but the majority of next year's legislative session as well, right? So not only for 25, but also for 26. That would just be gone. So when I look at Elise Stefanik, not taking this UN job, number one, she's got to eat a gigantic crap sandwich. Like, this is humiliating for her. She left Republican leadership in the House. Now they're going to have to do some make goods on whether or not she gets back in this year, who leaves, if she does. Big, big, big headaches. But I tend to think that this probably has more to do with the vote counting that is becoming clearer between the House, Senate, and the White House this week than it necessarily does the Florida special. Although maybe it is. Maybe Trump just looks at these numbers and says, holy crap, who thought this was a good idea to pick half my cabinet out of the Republican House majority that's already pretty thin? Who did that? Some dummy. Knock it off. Go the opposite way. Maybe that's the case. But I don't think that you can take away the timeline as to when that vote is going to be available totally from the calculus. All right. Big convo with Michael Cohen. It's all coming up.
The following is brought to you by Just Another Pilot.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Politics program for March 28th, 2025. Your old pal Justin Robert Young here. We're going to get to, in the update, some big stories here. Marco Rubio talking about student visas with a very strident message to it. The HHS cutting 10,000 jobs and the arresting of a MS-13 gang leader. But we begin with one of our favorite people, the one and only Michael Cohen. Let's get to him. We would like to welcome back one of our favorites, the one and only Michael Cohen, the man who wrote the book on the modern political campaign. And indeed, there's a new addition to the book. If you guys think that was ever just a thing that I like to say, no, he's literally written a book called Modern Political Campaigns. Edition 2 is out now. Yeah, for video folks, you can see the brand new cover, and we're very, very excited to promote it. Let's get all the details out right now. Where can people buy this book?
Anywhere you buy books. So you can go ahead and pre-order it from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Bookstop, basically any of the places that you will buy books. Yeah. You can also buy it from the publisher directly. I could actually send over a code if you want to buy it there. As it turns out, right now, the best deal, from what I understand, is Kindle, where it's like $15. Yeah, which is really great.
Michael won't say it. I will. Amazon. Buy it on Amazon. That's where publishers look. And so the higher you get on the charts on Amazon, the more publishers like it. Is it weird that they don't incentivize buying it from themselves where they make more money? Yes, it is weird that they do that. But they fixate on certain lists, and the Amazon lists are the lists that they fixate on. So buy it on Amazon. Support Michael. He's been here on this show through thick and thin, high water and low, in times where he wants to talk about stuff and doesn't want to talk about stuff. He is always here. Support him, especially if you enjoy the X's and O's of the campaigns. He is somebody that I have learned a tremendous much from, and I'm excited to see the new chapters from this book. So go get it now. I want to ask you a few things here. Number one, you've spent a lot of time in Florida politics and
Yeah.
Florida Republican politics specifically.
where I started
Right
out.
now, there is a lot of noise in the air about the two special elections that are going to happen. Florida 1, which is Matt Gaetz's district, seems like the laugher that it probably always would be. But then there's Florida 6, which, at least according to the early voting, is a lot closer than it should be. Florida 6 is north of Orlando, stretching out between Daytona Beach and St. Augustine.
Yeah.
The question is, Democrats have dumped $9 million into this. It looks like they'll still probably lose by 15 and not 30. Is there any tea leaves to be read by this, or are we just bored in March and desperately looking for any kind of numbers that go up or down?
Well, all things can be true at the same time. We are definitely bored in March. If you're not watching, Florida basketball, which, by the way, I highly recommend that should have been on your bracket. That was the best prediction I've had so far, actually. I went like 12 for 16 for the Sweet 16. I was really happy about
Nice.
that.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah. And so
me and my friend actually just decided on Saturday. We both have infants, and so we have Saturdays. We'll usually have our dad bets. We'll just make a bunch of bets and play it out throughout the day. But we just bet all underdogs, and Florida definitely made us pay. So, but we broke even. We wound up breaking even. If Gonzaga was able to actually not choke against Houston, we would have actually made some real money. But instead,
Houston's a paper tiger. I think they're gonna get crushed pretty soon. I don't buy them. I just don't.
They got hustle though. They were able to shut Gonzaga down. The question is how much you believe in Gonzaga. But anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So the real question is back to politics, right?
Yes.
We're on the PX3 podcast, not the NCAA podcast. But I think so we are bored. And also you have to understand that there's actually a lot of energy on the Democrat side, and they just want to do something, right?
They want a thing.
They want a thing to go and invest in, or invest their time, money, and treasure in, and just the whole idea of, we're being stopped in DC. What can we do? Well, we can throw our money here, right? There are two special elections. Not only that, but there's always this thing like in an off year. So it's like not even like the, every 2 years. It's like the off year right now.
Yes.
Yeah, where you would have usually New Jersey and Virginia, but you have these two weird,
New York City,
specials. And of course you've got, eventually you'll have the New York seat will pop up because they'll finally release her to the UN. Yes, she can go and yell at the UN every day. Sounds like a great job. But basically right now, this is like the thing that they can do, right? Mm-hmm. If you're not going to an AOC or Bernie rally, or if you're not on Capitol Hill protesting how incompetent Schumer is, or if you're not put to sleep by Hakeem Jeffries, which I was when I went to a Punch Bowl News thing a couple of weeks ago. You're looking for some hope, right? And so you feel like if you're going to ding them up a little bit, you're not going to win. But if you're going to ding them up a little bit, make them spend some money or make them sweat it out a little bit, this is the test case for if we went all in on a Republican district.
Yeah.
What can we do, right? And so you're not going to get, you're not going to win, right? But if you can get it to like 10 or 9, like that's a big, big story, right?
Yeah.
Because those are Trump plus $1 billion, districts.
Trump plus 24. Cook has it at R plus 14, and I've seen it more realistically higher at Trump R plus 20, low 20s.
Yeah, but honestly, once you get past 10, it's you start glazing over as a consultant. You're like, well, there's nowhere for me to go with this. So, I think this is the test case for how big can the map be in 26. And so if we threw all this money at a Trump plus $1 billion, what can we get it down to? And that'll be able to narrow down the list of places that they're willing to invest in 26.
I totally agree. And I think that the Florida Democrats start at learning how to lose better. like they are in such shambles.
Oh,
they are only animated when there is federal money coming in. They don't have an X's and O's play to do in the interregnum between elections that matter nationally. But there's been a lot of conversation about what this next census reapportionment is going to be. And it's like, guess what, guys? Like, the light at the end of the tunnel is a train if you're the Democrats, if you've given up on Florida, Texas, and Ohio. Like, you need to play there. They cannot be blood red states. You can't afford to let Florida turn into Alabama past 2032 because the Republicans aren't going to have to play as much in the blue wall states. The Sun Belt's going to matter that much more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm old enough to remember when it was a purple state in Florida.
I still think it is. And granted, maybe I've been away from Florida for long enough. No. Let me put it this way: it's not because the Florida Republicans have been competent for now 20 years from when they really started taking things seriously. The Florida Democrats have been incompetent for about that amount of time. Whatever magic was in that party died with Lawton Chiles and hasn't really been able to come back since. Everything's been living off, and
Lawton Chiles was dead 20 years before he was actually dead.
Exactly. So it's like there's no juice in one party. There's a lot of competence in the other one. And now there's a lot of money. There's a lot of energy in another one for a few different reasons. But the populace, it's like there's no reason why Democrats can't turn out people in Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami. There's no reason why they can't turn people out in the I-4 corridor where they do have natural constituencies. Florida's not Alabama. It's not evangelical. It is not this like hardcore. They don't have a long history with the Republican Party. They just liked what they've said recently, and they like DeSantis. DeSantis has been unquestionably a popular governor there. So it's like, but in a Byron Donalds administration, do you think that that's going to be the exact same thing? No, I think that there's definitely room for them to play statewide there.
There is, but I mean, there is a competence issue, right? I mean, if you've got the kind of consultants like Susie Wiles and her teams and people who are, mentees of her, I mean, just think about how competent Susie Wiles is and how competent, the consultancies around are. I mean, I was at the front end of that over in 96 when we took over the Florida House for the first time since Reconstruction. And my candidate was the one that pushed them over the edge. And so I was there at the precipice where it was, okay, wow, we actually won. We can't believe it.
Yeah.
And so it was a canary in a coal mine kind of thing. But I think what it comes down to is that the Democrats, and to be fair, I know Nikki Fried from college. We went to college together. She was my wife's sorority. We never pinned her as the smartest, savviest,
the mastermind
Politico. That you actually do need. I mean, I think she's nice. I mean, she relates to people really well. People like, being around her, but she's just not very strategic to the point where she's able to rebuild the party in places where it needs to be. I mean, they should be much more competitive in the I-4 corridor. They should be more competitive in South Florida. They should be more competitive in Tampa. They're not. And
no.
So if you don't start winning there and winning convincingly, it's very hard to sort of build out from there. Yeah, I mean, it's not. Then you have nothing in Florida, right? I mean, you're not going to win, Ted Yoho, Kat Kamak, his old seat. Like, you're not going to win these, rural cities, rural districts, unless you start winning the big cities first. And so for me, I think it comes down to candidate development. It comes down to competency, at the consultant level. And I think that there's just this general feeling in Florida that we're not competitive and, why try? Let's, and they start losing a lot of their talent going to other places. And so they're either going nationally, like the Democratic, talent is kind of like brain draining there over the past 20 years. Whereas very clearly the Republican talent is really strong and they're getting good candidates.
You know that's a path to power. I mean, look at the current administration is staffed by like 50% people that are from like Palm Beach or Miami-Dade. It's insane.
Yeah, you're looking at Wiles, you're looking at LaCivita, you're looking at Fabrizio. I mean, it was basically a Florida campaign. And Fabrizio was here for a long time in DC, but I mean, he's basically, in Florida at this point. And so, I mean, you look at it like, okay, well, that's where the talent is and that's where the energy is. There's Mar-a-Lago. That's, a big pull for everything else. And so there's like this sort of natural power center down there that may or may not survive Trump, when he's out or when he gets aged out. But we'll see. I mean, it seems to me like that the sons and daughters of MAGA have a real opportunity to take it, further, kind of the way the Reagan Revolution was. You sort of took that for 20 to 30 years. This is a revolution in the party, and it's a different way of looking at the electorate, and the electorate is responding.
And I think that it is time for the Democrats to realize you need to start running. You need to stop making every candidate on a statewide level pass this MSNBC purity test. Like they can't be. You have to have Texas candidates that run like Texas Democrats. You got to have you got to have Florida Democrats that run like Florida Democrats. Like not everything can be. You cannot have Colin Allred caught up in a trans sports debate.
No.
Like that is a he overperformed, but I do think he could have been competitive. Yeah. He could have been competitive if you didn't saddle him with issues that are not conducive to those areas for people that actually, I don't know, have to vote for him.
Yeah, dude played NFL. He was like a good player. Just go to ESPN. Go to like hang out on Rogan. He's a guy's guy. There's no reason why he should have been on MSNBC. Another example, the Casey race in Pennsylvania. He was on MSNBC a lot. What are you doing, man? You're like actually in Pennsylvania. Like nobody wants to hear or see you on MSNBC. No. It's just no. It's I'm with you. Like that. They think that that's their media, and if the other guys can go on Fox News and on News Nation or whatever, but it's a miss because people are not looking at MSNBC as a place that they want to watch TV. It's becoming a place where it's just it's not only that, but it's also being hollowed out. They're switching over all the
I think
top people there and stuff. So I don't know.
MSNBC itself is going to be an interesting institution to see where it goes, but the general purity test is really what I would say is like if it's not an 80-20 issue for the world for your world of voters, don't force your candidates to eat it. Like nobody don't force them to do it for moral purposes, because that's how you wind up losing elections. That's how you wind up ill-fitting certain things. I remember this way back with the Beto race here in Texas against Ted Cruz, where he had a really good surge. He had tremendous fundraising. He was getting great turnout in the places where he needed to get great turnout. Yeah. And then he takes a hard stand on like Colin Kaepernick kneeling in a place where football and God and country are religion, right? They are all held in the same thing. The idea, it's like you could not take a less popular position. Just say, no, if it were up to me, I would either suspend him, and he should salute the flag because football is a great game. And a lot of our kids are looking up to the NFL to, see how they would like to go in the future. Whatever.
He could have just said it. He could have just said it's disrespectful to America. You know? That's what Texas would have just wanted to hear. Like, it's a sign of disrespect. It's not a sign of like woke or this or that. It's just a blatant disrespect. And I think that is the thing that he could have just said and just, gone with it. I don't know, but you're right. When you get caught in these little like mini culture wars, Democrats seem to always lose them.
Well, look, culture wars are great when you can get bonus points for very little by saying a thing. I agree, I disagree with a thing. They are very bad when they become anchors around your neck that you have to defend because they are becoming increasingly unpopular with everybody but your hardcore base. And sometimes as a candidate, I think you just, this is something, again, that we're seeing with the Democrats, where the fight about the groups. Well, the groups have too much power. And I agree. If the ACLU is sending you a questionnaire that has things that you're like, I don't want to answer this, and I think that these are stupid questions, why are you making me answer this? Then yes, the ACLU, if they care about advancing democratic politics, should think twice about it. And you should have a spine and just not answer. Just say, I'm not answering these questions because I don't want to get a hamstrung on it. You are the candidate. Like, there's only so much that you can criticize the groups and not say, well, you are the one who's controlling your campaign. You're the one who went up on stage and said, I want to protect the rights for people to transition in prison. This is an issue of personal responsibility here.
Well, and the shift in all of the fundraising on, particularly on the Democrat side, where a lot of it's very small donor, a large number of small donations. I mean, it's really supposedly taken power away from these groups. So, look, these groups, they can be active, they can be a pain in the ass and all of that. But if you're looking just at dollars and cents, I mean, most of your money is coming from people, not from groups.
Yeah.
Right. So you should be able to say no. Like, that is the moment where you should be able to say, well, you know what? I don't need that $2,000, from the ACLU. I'm not worried that they're going to target me. Are they really going to target me in a primary? I mean, don't they have bigger fish to fry if I don't answer this stupid question? I mean, there are things like that campaigns really need to be much more strategic about and understand, like, okay, where are my people coming from? Where is my money coming from? And how much time do I have to go and deploy all of it?
This is your update, brought to you by TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Get 2 bonus episodes each and every week. And this was a great week to have. Not only did we lay out everything that was happening on the Sunday shows, a DC that is kinetic, all right? A lot of DC-based stories in the world of politics, more than they usually are, more than just the fact that the House, Senate, and White House are located in D.C. No, we're talking about like big things that are happening to the political and power order of that town, including the wholesale shedding of headcount. The Sunday shows have never been more relevant, but to watch them all would be boring and stupid, if not insanely frustrating. Allow me to do it for you and for you to get the best of it. And then on Thursday's edition of the show, we dug more into this Signalgate story, including a little exclusive reporting. What Republican Congress folk really feel about what is happening with Signal. The only place you can get it is our Substack. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. You go ahead and sign up for our subscription package. It's $3 a week, billed 12 monthly, or set it and forget it the entire damn year. $99. That's over 150 episodes of the show, less than $1 an episode. If you think this show is worth it, go ahead and get on the team. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Here are some stories we didn't have a chance to get to. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced that the State Department has revoked over 300 student visas as part of the Trump administration's efforts to detain and deport pro-Palestinian student activists nationwide. This initiative aims to penalize critics and exert control over higher education institutions, which Donald Trump has labeled as liberal strongholds. Among those is Rumnija Ozturk, a Turkish Fulbright scholar at Tufts University whose arrest video went viral. Rubio justifies the revocations by alleging that many students were involved in activities supporting Hamas. These actions have faced criticism from Democrats who question their legality and their impact on free speech. And I don't know if there's really a cogent argument that can be made that this is emboldening or strengthening free speech. But this is the problem when you go from an abstract anti-war message to a message that is tacitly or explicitly in support of a designated terrorist group. All right, and this is the difference between Israeli-Palestine situations in the past, where you had the Palestinian Authority, which even if people wanted to say was a front for the PLO, it was a cut above. And Yasser Arafat could go to the White House. Yasser Arafat could go to 16 Downing Street. Yasser Arafat could mingle amongst the world leaders. Now, he might have been looked down upon by certain people, but still, he could do that because there was a level removed from the terrorist elements of Palestinian society. When you were talking directly about Hamas, it's the difference between saying stopping war in Iraq and hooray Al-Qaeda. And when you are in a post-Patriot Act world, well, the designation of these terror groups do provide different privileges for authority. I find all of this unfortunate because I do think that some collegiate institutions let this stuff get a little too far. I think if it were nipped in the bud, we wouldn't be in this position, but maybe we would be otherwise. It is at the discretion of the Secretary of State to do it. If we don't like the fact that he has that ability, well, that could be something that Democrats could run on. So keep an eye on that. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services announced it will cut 10,000 jobs following a voluntary departure of 10,000 employees, shrinking the workforce from 82,000 to 62,000. This restructuring, consolidating divisions from 28 to 15 and reducing regional offices, will save $1.8 billion annually. HHS's new mission emphasizes tackling chronic illness and environmental toxins. Critics warn that service standards could deteriorate, which could affect Medicare, Medicaid, and public health efforts. While HHS promises efficiency, experts express concern that deep cuts will disrupt service, burden local agencies, harm morale, and ultimately weaken U.S. public health infrastructure. I just want to say, I've been told my entire life that firing federal employees was next to impossible. And I've been told that by Republicans. I've been told that by Democrats. I've been told that by everybody who believes anything. And I'm just going to say this. The Trump administration, for better or ill, is making it look very easy. It is mind-blowing to me that this is happening at this speed, just because I did not believe it to be possible. Will this erode HHS? Hell if I know, man. I'm an elections monkey. I'll tell you this. If people have their service degraded for public things that are very, very well loved, like Medicare and Medicaid, you will feel it. And you will feel it at the ballot box. Finally, federal authorities arrested Henry Josue Villatoro Santos, a Salvadorian man, alleged to be among the top MS-13 gang leaders in the United States, overseeing East Coast operations. Villatoro Santos was charged only with being an undocumented immigrant possessing firearms. The FBI seized guns and MS-13 paraphernalia during the raid at his Virginia home. Attorney General Pam Bondi and Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin praised the arrest as significant in Trump's crackdown of gangs and immigration. Prosecutors have 30 days to seek additional charges. Local officials noted that the arrest resulted from ongoing collaborations between local and federal law enforcement agencies. This is something that the Trump administration wants in the news more than the lady that was deported from Tufts. Because this is a 90-10 issue. Even if you don't like a crackdown on immigration, you like the idea that an MS-13 gang leader is out of the country. That is the kind of safety stuff that people are generally more appreciative of. Also, one more thing. We're going to bring Scrimshaw on and Ryan Jakubowski soon in the next few weeks to do a draft of the worst state parties. But I might need to bring Scrim on earlier to talk about what's going on in this Canadian election, because what I think now is the leading candidate in that election, Mark Carney for the Liberal Party, totally I'm up out my coma, the Liberal Party of Canada, saying that the relationship that Canada has had with the United States is over. Donald Trump is going to put the Liberals back in power, or keep the Liberals in power in Canada. Whew. It is visceral up there in the Great White North. Salute to all our listeners there in Canada, man. But y'all are fired up. Y'all are pissed. Very, very angry. I mean, look, I don't know. Everybody's got their own economic messaging. And what Carney said was pretty Canada first. Maybe that's a slogan he can go with. But I'm kind of surprised that nobody is running in the lane of like, hey, I'll be the adult in the room and create a shrewd deal with Trump. It's like full on anger from Carney and a little bit more of a simpering please don't from the conservatives. Like, just based on the stuff that I've seen, and I don't know anything about Canadian politics, so do not take me seriously, but I can tell why one of these guys is leading and the other's not. Poilievre seems in the woods, dude. Like, he's not the strongest in negotiating. I mean, like, Carney has taken the inside lane on strong negotiator. And if the conservatives don't have that, then what the hell do they got, right? Holy moly. TakePoliticsSeriously.com, where you need to go if you want to get 2 bonus episodes of this show each and every week. And now, Mr. Michael Cohen's back. I want to bring something up. Have you followed this story of the influencer Kat Abu, who is running in Congress, and she has made some pledges as to what she will not do now that she is running for Congress?
Let's go through the laundry list because this is going to be fun. I mean, I actually watched her announcement, and she looks like every influencer you've ever seen, and she's taking shots, and can we just not be stupid?
Yep.
Which I thought was a great line. And okay, that makes sense. But I haven't gone down the rabbit hole on her yet because she raised $100,000, and while that's nice, I mean that's like pat on the head kind of money at this point. Like if she all of a sudden raised like $2 million, I think I'd spend a little bit more time thinking about her. But let's go down that rabbit hole.
So yeah, she raised less than she raised $100,000 in less than 7 hours. That is what she said. She is
influencers are going to do what they do. Yeah.
She is running for a safe Democratic seat, Illinois 9, which I believe is in the Chicago area. She's
running against an ancient, candidate who's been there a long time, and she's thinking about retiring. Apparently, she's like I think 80 or something. So she's trying to nudge her out.
It is notable to say she is a 26-year-old progressive influencer. Folks might have seen her before. She has in various different outlets, Media Matters, one of them, been kind of a professional Tucker Carlson clip harvester. Like that was her beat for a while.
Okay.
But one of the things that she said was she will not be spending money on cable advertising, which even Democratic people that I was following were like, I get it. It's cause du jour to talk about money in politics and where people are spending it and where they aren't spending it. But who do you think is voting in a primary election for a midterm?
Right.
Old people. What do you think old people do? They're still watching cable news.
Yeah, they're not streaming it on their phone. They have a clicker that may or may not work, and it's stuck on one channel. Probably MSNBC. Probably MSNBC. And maybe CNN during a real news event. That's really silly. Like, what's her point of view on why, other than that's not cool for me? Is she gonna spend money on Facebook? Is she gonna spend money on TikTok?
I genuinely don't believe that she has a more sophisticated media strategy. I don't think that it's something that like you or I would read and be like, oh, okay, so you're going to go full earned media on cable. So you believe that you can get on MSNBC 7 times a week and that's going to benefit you. But instead you're going to double it into OTT advertising and, TikTok ads or whatever, right? Like that would be something where you'd look at it and you'd be like, oh, wow, okay, well, that's you looked at this problem and you're trying to come at it from a different perspective. There is very much a belief, especially among online progressives, that all of this is performative and that what you really need to do is just run what she mentioned is like running food banks in the district that will spend the money like that. Don't pay it to grifting consultants.
And is that performative? Okay. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna do? Instead of really running for office, I'm gonna go and work at a food bank. Okay, fine. Well, got it. Why aren't you doing that now?
Yeah. So
right?
Kat says during her launch, we are not going to take any corporate cash, but
great.
I promise not to waste your money on old, ineffective tactics. No spam texts, no cable ads, and no consultants who haven't won an election this century.
Okay, fine. So you're not going to hire James Carville like he wants to hang out with you anyway. I mean,
although I would love to see the two of them in a room without microphones. That would be an interesting place to be.
Kat, grow up. No, it's nice that she's decided that she's going to run. I mean, I'm always pro people running for office. That's good. But I also think that her putting down the statement of principles of things she's not going to do before she's actually hired somebody to help. I mean, I don't know when the last time Kat ran an election. She is not. Of course, this is her first time running. Yeah. No, I know, but or run someone else's election.
Oh, got you.
And won, right? So, she seems to be like one of these kids that I want to kick off my lawn who basically know everything and hasn't done anything yet, and all she's done is just being really interesting on camera. To the point where she's gotten the moniker influencer, which I wonder, like, who she's been influencing. Okay, she influenced, I guess, people to give her $100,000, but it sounds like she's just going to sit on it and give it to the poor, which is nice. But that sounds like a public affairs campaign, not a political campaign.
So all right, let's say I came to you and I said, Michael, I'm going to run. Okay. I don't know where I'm going to run.
Run in Texas.
All of this is up in the air.
That's where your kid is. Run in Texas.
Yeah, but I could run in Florida. I have roots in Florida. I could That's theoretically fair. I could run in Syracuse. I've moved around enough that I can Mitt Romney this thing. Like I got like 5 or 6 hometowns.
I feel like this conversation is taking a turn. Okay, let me help you. Okay.
Well, no, I'm asking you right now. This is again. You're the man who wrote the modern political campaign. If I was actually going to run, you would probably be my first call, no matter what. So we'll do it here. Sure. What would you say first thing? First thing, if I said, hey, I think I really want to do this. I'm tired of making money with very little consequence in a podcast. I want to give all that up so I can actually wreck my life for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, first I'd be like, please don't do this to yourself. I mean, you have a young child, you have a good relationship with your wife. You have a relatively cool gig. Substack gives out nice T-shirts. I mean,
they do.
Why do this to yourself? So once we get past the I'm actually serious, Mike.
I'm actually going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Then it becomes which race, right? So what do you want to do and why? So the first question I would always ask a client is, why do you want to do this? And so if you don't know why you want to do this, then you don't do it. And I would say this goes basically back to like Simon Sinek's really good low tech TED talk on start with why. And he wrote a great book on it. And it really does sort of change. Instead of like most candidates, what they do is they say, I'm going to run. And what I need to do is surround myself with hows and that kind of stuff. About what are the things I need to do, as opposed to like looking at themselves and saying, well, why do I want to do this? What do I bring to the table that no one else does? Why is this an important race to me? So in other words, if you want to run for Congress, what are the kinds of things that you think is broken in Congress that you think you can help fix that would actually, matter to the people you care about? If you want to instead run for a school board, or if you want to run for a county commission, or for state house or state senate, like what are the reasons why you want to run? And then once we have that conversation, we can start teasing out, okay, these are the things that you care about. These are the things that your constituents care about. Where's the overlap? And that becomes the beginnings of your campaign.
So you want to find those natural Venn diagram gray areas where, like, if I'm really into tax reform, I need to find the people that are right now hurting the most in my district for tax reform.
Well, what you want to find out is primarily like what are the top issues in the area where you want to run. So let's say you've decided you want to be mayor of Austin because Austin's awesome, and you want to keep it weird, and you want to do all the kinds of things that Austin's known for. I mean, and you're saying, okay, well, Austin's going on the wrong track. People who live in Austin feel X, Y, and Z. Okay, I feel X, Y, Z, A, B, and C. What you do is you look at the X, Y's, and Z's and make those overlap. And so you say, okay, the issues that I care about, I probably care about a dozen different issues very much, right? Mm-hmm. What do the people care about? Probably 2 or 3 different things. So then that becomes the campaign if you have overlap, not only in interest, but the kinds of things that you feel you can impact, and also maybe even a creative solution or two on how to go and change things. And so those are the kinds of conversations I would have with a client right to begin with, who's thinking about just running. But in most cases, they have a specific race that they're targeting. And then we could talk through whether or not there's an incumbent, whether or not that incumbent is strong, or where they could possibly be beaten. I mean, they may have scandals, they may just have bad votes, they may be, there too long. This is what Kat's thinking when she's running. She's looking at that race and thinking, well, this member has been in Congress for like 30 years and has done nothing, that I care about. So
I also have a very big question about anybody. I think that you can kind of only carpetbag north to south. I don't really think that you can carpetbag south to north. That's where people start to get a little, especially when you see the migration patterns and it's like, no, everybody who still lives in a Rust Belt state, like they're very provincial, and they're only going to get more provincial over the next 10 years because they all know somebody that moved to Arizona, Florida, or Texas, and they didn't. They are like, no, we stayed here for a reason. So anytime that somebody moves up there, and this is, I think, part of the reason why Mayor Pete may have, taken a look at that Michigan race and said, the numbers are good now. Would they stay good? Because he's carpetbagging north or south to north, which is the wrong way to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think any kind of carpetbagging at this point sort of goes counter to where most of the electorate is. Like most of the electorate right now wants something authentic and real. Yeah. And so they're willing to forgive a lot. I mean, Trump voters are willing to forgive a lot because they believe that Trump is a real human being, and that when he's the one who's leading, it's him, right? Yeah. And so that all comes with all the good and bad, right? But when you love somebody, you make excuses for them, when they do stupid things. And so I think when, if you look at things like Dr. Oz, in Pennsylvania again, I mean, that was essentially a carpetbag race. And Fetterman did a great job on that one. And Fetterman is what you would imagine, Pennsylvania would be represented by.
He looks like dudes in a Steelers tailgate.
He looks like a dude in a Steelers tailgate, right? Yeah. And so to me, like that makes a lot of sense. So if you were to move to Florida or for somewhere else, like you'd have to live there for a while, before you run. So your best race right now is somewhere around Austin because that's where you're. Is
the Austin area? Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
but I've only lived here for a couple years, so
right. So you need to be there a little bit longer. You need to actually go do the food banks. You need to take your daughter out and do stuff in the community.
Make some. You
can't just run. You can't just run, because you've had a successful podcast, a successful platform, right? Like I think that's probably not enough for someone to run, and I think that's just universally. And I mean, obviously, I do everything I could to help you.
Of course,
but
I'd count on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't worry.
Most of it for free.
If I raised $100,000, I'd be apportioning it appropriately to my friends who actually are smarter than me about running campaigns.
Yeah, I mean, I think the good news is that I think there are probably races down ballot where you can say, you know what, I've only been here a couple of years, but man, I've been involved in politics for 20 years, and I love this place. I'm building a family here, and that kind of thing. So like, for a race like, school board all the way up probably to state senate, you probably have a good answer for that. Because people are moving into Texas a lot, right?
Because I would say the reason why I think that you can carpetbag from north to south is that everybody at least understands, oh, this was a good place. We all moved here for a reason. We like it.
Right.
We just wish it would be better or would run right. Like there is a real feeling amongst transplants, especially in this post-COVID world where we had really mass migration. I think we're going to look back on the last 3 years, 4 years and say like, no, this is like a huge reshaping of America that's going to have consequences that go beyond the years that it happened. And part of that idea is I desperately don't want my new home to become like my last home. My last home was a problem. And you're seeing the echoes of that on the liberal side with this like Ezra Klein, Derek Thompson abundance book, which is largely focused on like, what if Democrats kept their promises? What if Democrats have no problem promising? They have a real problem keeping their promises. So when they say we want a technocratic city that's doing things for the poor and the indigent, we want to help benefit homeless and build a high-speed rail and be for the working class, maybe do those things as opposed to just not doing those things, which is part of the problem with at least the cities that are essentially, and states that are one-party rule.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at it, I mean, for example, there's a strong feeling, among some Democrats, who's like, well, we spent all this money on infrastructure. Where are the roads? Where are all the chargers, right? I was all ready to buy, an EV, right? Well, there aren't any more chargers now than there should have been, right? And I'm sorry, like, if you can't get that shit done, and we allocated all this money, and at the expense had a lot of inflation, like, we didn't even get the benefit of all that spending, right? It's just, and so to a real extent, I think the Democrats have not, on the execution side, really done a great job at, fulfilling those promises. I mean, it's one of the reasons actually why Gretchen Whitmer is doing so well, because she fixed the damn roads.
Yes. And she put her name on the fact that the roads were being fixed, right?
Yeah.
There is a messaging. Anytime that you do, and this is the reason why, at least from my perspective, nobody ever got infrastructure done before, is because it's a delayed gratification.
Right.
You are going to get credit for it 10 years on. You're not.
Which means you won't get credit for it.
Because many of you won't get credit for it, right? So nobody really wants to.
It's a no-win.
Everybody, it's bipartisan popular. Yes, we should do this, but in the congressional calendar, should we do it now is always the big problem.
Because it's always another priority, right? And so I think to a real extent, like, you need to look at issues. You say, look, on the transplant side, 40,000 people moved to, or whatever number, to Austin over the past 2 or 3 years. I'm one of those people who came here. And I came here because I was excited about this area. It has a lot to offer, but there are problems. And there are certain things that I've seen elsewhere where I've lived, and we can bring some of those solutions here, or we can fix them in a Texas way. But the point is you have to look at it from the perspective of, look, I know who I am. Like, don't try and walk around like a big brim hat, and say, I'm Texan.
My one campaign idea, and I'm not serious about running, but the one campaign idea that I ever had if I were ever to run in Texas would just be to run on the campaign, trust me, I'm from California, and just understand that that's going to get the reaction it's going to get, right? Live on that engagement farming, and then have the message underneath it be, hey, I don't know enough about Austin, but I do know everything that went wrong in California. And so I can tell you exactly what
not to do.
What not to do. And I think that would be a compelling argument, at least on things like public safety and homelessness and stuff like that.
Definitely. I mean, the answer is we don't want to become California. And that's a compelling answer. It really is. I mean, when I first moved out to Loudoun County from Maryland, Loudoun County was growing. And it's stabilized after a while. But there was a big feeling of people who were moving here like, wow, we're all kind of new to this place. You know? And there's a really interesting kind of vibe in an area like that where you don't have Wegmans yet. You don't have Whole Foods. You don't have Target yet. And you're like excited, like, oh my God, it's coming. Like, that's happening. And like, we're growing. And then it's like, okay, well, how are we sustaining this? Oh God, we're building all of these data centers. That's an issue, right? Or like the road here is really expensive, the toll road. That's an issue. So like, those are the kinds of things, like if you're running in a race like that, where you have to say, okay, how am I experiencing this new area where I've been? And does that reflect essentially how people are feeling as we're growing?
I want to pivot to the book, and specifically something that you and I both share a passion for, and that is the development of large language models and artificial intelligence. You write about that in the book in terms of the future of campaigning. In the world of AI, there's a lot of snake oil. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of promises for things that it can't really do good. But there is a tremendous amount that it can do extraordinarily well. And it is changing and evolving every day. I mean, hell, yesterday, as we record this is good. It's going to be a few days when you guys listen to it on Friday. But OpenAI released their image model that now can actually do text. Before it was all text like you would read it in a book in a dream where it would be floaty and weird and not. But now it's like crisp, typographic. You can use fonts. You can ask for certain things and it'll be good. Like, we're in a world where I don't know if anyone's going to get hired to design a campaign sign in the future. You're going to be able to prototype that pretty well with AI. What do you think is real in the world of campaigns when it comes to AI? And what do you think is just snake oil, fanciful promises, at least right now?
So let me look at this. We'll go big and then we'll go small. Okay. So from a structural standpoint in American democracy and world democracies, this is the first time ever in campaign history that a real compelling technology was all of a sudden available for everyone.
Yeah.
At the same time, at a price point that any campaign can afford. Okay. That is remarkable. Okay. So when TV comes out, it's expensive to produce a television commercial, even radio, even internet, right? You have to build a website. You have to do all these kinds of things. And like all that costs like a lot of money. Social media comes out and sure, you can use it, but to be really effective and to track it and all those kinds of things, big money. Data analytics, big money. You know, you look down the line of all the major, advances in campaigning over the past 50 years. This is the first time that everybody got the toy at the same time.
Yeah.
So what has that done? It's actually made it a period of experimentation. Okay. So we're all trying to figure it out at the same time. And the larger campaigns already have tools that they don't really need OpenAI or any other, large language model because they can pay consultants to do this for them.
Yeah.
So where it's really being really interesting is at these mid-tier and lower tier campaigns. All of a sudden, they now are able to upskill to a point where they can actually be much more professional and draft a lot of this stuff that they would have to pay thousands of dollars to consultants, right? So Kat, for example, who's running and says she's not going to use any consultants. She can go ahead and use OpenAI. She can basically upload everything she's ever said on the interwebs.
That crew hates AI, but sure, theoretically.
No, but she could, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
somebody like her,
or someone like her can say, hey, or like you're going to run someday and you decide, hey, everything I've ever said, I want to make sure that any content that comes out feels like me, right?
Yes.
And so instead of like a consultant spending like a week with you asking questions, you can upload everything you've ever done. And then when you go and you ask for certain things, you can get it back and it'll be much closer to what it'll be right in the first draft. What it does also is that it helps younger people who are working on campaigns for their first time. It doesn't really get rid of them, but what it does is upskills them because a lot of people who work on campaigns for the first time are students or they're just recently graduated and their writing isn't that great, right?
Yeah.
And so if they go ahead and they use a large language model to get them started, and then what I recommend is you use whatever the output is, and then you use your intelligence based upon what the race is like, who the candidates are, and all the sort of soft skills that you get from working on campaigning, and then revise that draft before you pass it off to the candidate or you pass it off to a campaign manager or whoever. Then you are having a very different conversation about what you're doing as opposed to, it took me 3 days and here it is. And there's a bunch of spelling errors and a bunch of grammar errors and it doesn't really make any sense. It's kind of a ramble and, it uses words that the candidate would never use. But instead, like what you've done then is you've made a different situation where you can then talk with the people who are really experienced on the campaign. They can say to you, okay, this is a good first draft. Talk to me about how you got here, right? And then you say, okay, well, I used all the speeches and I used OpenAI and then I went back and forth with the large language model a few times and I did a draft on top of that. and this is why I think this is useful, then the people on the campaign or the candidate can say, well, okay, well, this is good here, but I would never say that, and we need to sort of bring something else in. And so instead you're really tweaking as opposed to drafting from scratch. And so you end up with a much better product at the end. You should never use this stuff just to chug it out and then post it. Like, that's the dumbest thing you could possibly do, because these things don't know politics. And not only that, but a lot of the models that people are using are not updated up to the point where you are today, unless you're paying money, right? And so to a real extent, a lot of this stuff needs that actual human element to it to make it work.
But in terms of cleaning up, so you would say right now the most utilitarian part of large language models that it does well and cheap is to take shabby copy and bring it to 75%. So then you can have a faster journey from 75% to 100% to get it to something that would actually go out. But that time that would go, especially from low-level staffers, volunteers that would be writing stuff, it's so much harder to go from 10% to 100% than 75% to 100%. And that saves time, effort, and energy for a campaign that's bootstrapped.
It does help that. And then I would also say that when you're looking at the research abilities of AI at this point, it's actually pretty good. And so, for example, if you're trying to learn something about your opponent, or vet your own candidate, or vet some of these other people who are within the ecosystem of a campaign, could be another group. A group might come in and decide to go and run a campaign against you, and you may never have heard of them, right? Yeah. So you can get quick information about them right away and get your head around who they might be, and then you could do other research on top of it. So it's a really good research tool, and it's a good drafting tool at this point. But again, from my perspective, those things are tactics. Like, those are tactical kind of things that you could use for a campaign. The part that is the thing that a lot of people are worried about or scared about or interested in actually developing, and I've talked to a number of people in the book who are working on this, is that they want to get to the point where these things can be strategic, where you can give it inputs and it would come up with essentially a creative campaign plan for you. And honestly, I mean, to me, like, that's 20, 30 years down the line. And I don't even think we even get there. I really think that, to a real extent, what you have is the professionals in the field just won't accept it, right? Like, they won't accept that as virtual, as good technology for them, right? They'll look at it and say, well, they're never going to know all the nuances that I'm going to know. And on top of all of that, the LLMs will never come up with something that's really creative, right? And on point. No. And quirky and interesting and eye-grabbing. Like, you can't get to viral from an LLM. You can get to competent copy, or competent research or competent pieces of this. Like, these things are really low-level operatives in your campaign. They're not strategic in any sense of the form.
Yeah, I would say right now, if you were to load an LLM with every great strategic text in the world of politics from like ancient Greece to 2024, right? The best that it could probably do is kind of give you, like, if you're playing blackjack in Vegas and the dealer will tell you what the book play is, well, the book says you should do X, Y, or Z. It could probably give you that. You could probably say, hey, here's the current data. Here's who I am. Here's who my opponent is. And it would say, all right, well, the book says that you should probably start reaching out to these kinds of people.
You shouldn't hit on 20. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Which
now,
is
maybe,
great.
I'll tell you what, that's the kind of stuff where it's like, I just finished next week. We'll have our interview with Amy Parnes and Jonathan Allen, who just did the book Fight.
It's great. Parnes is so good, and Jonathan's great. Yeah.
So they were great. The book's
awesome.
fantastic. I finished it in like 2 days.
Awesome.
This Biden campaign, all of the surrogates, all of the people running it, straight to jail, to campaign jail immediately.
They need to be sent. Forget jail. They need to be sent to the Phantom Zone so we don't ever have to see them again. Like, literally, like, hanging out with Zod somewhere in, like, the netherworld.
They need the Phantoms. Like, there's a point, and this is where you will probably start to pull your fingernails out, where they have their door knockers. They become convinced that once they've topped out, that they need to find Republicans to vote for them, which is the reason why they start going on the road with Liz Cheney. But then also they start lowering their target scores. So the way that door knockers go is every house is essentially given a target score of how persuadable that they might be, right? And so normally in a good campaign, you find enough 80% houses that you are able to go and hopefully do some damage there, add to your total.
How far down
they
go?
lowered their targets to like 20. And they were sending
They were literally turning other people out. They were turning out their, oh my God, 20? You can't go 80-20 the other way.
Yeah, they were sending
That's
people
insane.
to like the head of the Republican Party in those counties so they could give them the good word about Kamala Harris in Pennsylvania. They were actively doing damage. The vaunted ground game. All the conversation we had about the big, beautiful ground game. Oh, it was the pride of Jenna.
They were actually damaging their own candidate. I mean, the benchmark is nothing below 60 usually.
Yeah.
Okay, you would never go below 60.
But they were so desperate for Republicans. They needed Republicans, and so they assumed that they were going to be able to find more persuadable Republicans by sending, which, by the way, attrits your staff, which is something that I heard in the field while it was happening. I had friends that were canvassing in Philly for Kamala that were like, it's bleak. We're getting sent to these houses where we're just getting blistered with people saying that Trump's their guy. I heard the same thing in Pittsburgh. Like, it was just bad.
Justin, this is actually their MO. I mean, this goes all the way back to Hillary running against Trump the first time. I had students on that campaign. I had one student in Ohio who was field organizer, and they were going to these districts where they were told to go, and they were told it was going to be 80-20. And it was actually 80-20 the other way.
Yes.
Okay. And they were saying, okay, well, fine. Here's one of the technical things about campaigns that everyone should understand. When you get that information, it has to go back to headquarters. Yeah. And you have to make the argument that we're actually hurting the campaign. We are turning out people who want to vote against us. We are
reminding people that won't vote for us when election day is and when they should get their early ballot, and you're giving them the information that you don't want your opponent's people to have.
And we're giving them reasons not to go. We're going there and telling them about Harris, and they hate everything about her. So we're telling them all these other reasons why not to vote for her. And this goes back to 2016. I mean, their teams have learned nothing over this period, because Dan told me, my former student, he's like, you know what? We called Brooklyn and we said, it's not 80-20 our way, it's 80-20 the other way. And they said, okay, hold on a minute. And they would talk about it offline for a couple of seconds. And then they get on the phone, like, keep doing it. We need the votes. And he's like, yeah, for who? Like, I'm not working for Trump. I'm working for Hillary. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And so the idea that, again, they did that all the way 10 years later, I mean, come on, they've learned nothing. No. And this is what we were talking about in Florida, where like the talent level at the consultant level is really different. I'm telling you one thing, Tony Fabrizio, Susie Wiles, and Chris LaCivita, if that happened, they'd pull those people out. They say, no, screw it. Here, you need a sabbatical in Alabama. You need go to Pennsylvania and go to these districts. Like, don't do damage to my candidate.
Yeah.
No. I mean, on the other side, I have it on very good authority that, they did a great job of identifying their voters that could be, moved from Biden to Trump. And they spent all their money right there. I mean, there's some great reporting from the New York Times and others, Fabrizio has come out and Lee, who both those guys I worked with when I was at that firm. And they said, no, look, Harris had more money, but we just spent our money much smarter. And they've spent their people smarter. They weren't knocking on doors. They were 80-20 the other way. I guarantee you that never happened. That's awful. No. And, I have no more fingernails left, people. I just pulled them all out. God, that's awful. Read a damn book. Come on.
That's the thing,
I'll give you my book for free, you idiots. My God.
Well, and that's especially awful. When, you are somebody that has very, very loudly and proudly aligned yourself in the Never Trump camp. They were looking for Never Trump votes.
Right.
And it's like, anybody who's been around that world can tell you, number one, the ceiling's pretty low if you're looking for actual head count. Like, turns out they're all in the
There's not
media
a lot
or
of people.
politics, but there's not a ton. Like, it's not out
There
at
are
the
a lot of
farmer's
normies.
market you're going to see. Yeah, normies are, it's not there. So it's like, congratulations, you've converted the bulwark, which was already never going to vote for Trump.
Right.
But number two,
And I love the
even if you're
bulwark.
looking for the persuadable people that you can tilt, it's not Liz Cheney that you need for that. You need other ways to get into that community. You need people to come around to the idea that they are never Trump. Like, anybody that Liz Cheney convinced, she convinced 3 years ago.
No. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, honestly, look, I'm loud and proud that I was never Trump. But I also know very clearly who's run the better campaign. I mean, he did something a couple weeks ago, right? That was an 8 campaign, and it was an 8 campaign. This was clearly the best of his 3, and it was extremely well run. I mean, and not only that, they had a high bar. I mean, they had a guy who's convicted 34 times. I mean, they had a guy who was shot. I mean, people were trying to kill the guy on his own golf course. Yep. Right? So, I mean, look at the environment with which you're running, and that's a high bar to clear. And then on top of that, they get rid of the candidate who everybody hated. And then they give you somebody who's new, who didn't have to go through a primary. All this fiction that Kamala Harris would have been better off going through a primary, totally misremembers that Kamala Harris went through a primary first and it was awful. It was so bad she didn't make it to the first round. I mean, who's thinking that was going to go well? I don't understand this.
Well, nobody. I don't think anybody that was calling for a primary believed they were calling for a primary because they believed she would not make it through, and they needed people like Barack Obama, who wanted Gretchen Whitmer, according to this book. You know, that's what they wanted.
He's right.
They wanted to leapfrog her, and that was not going to happen.
That was not going to happen at that time. Yeah, no. It should have been the 2-year thing that you and I have talked about.
I mean, look, there's
I love
there's the one campaign thing that is in that book that I found fascinating was that the Trump campaign were very heavy into mailers, and that was apparently one of the things that when Corey Lewandowski came worming his way back into the power structure, that's what he went after Chris LaCivita on, was that he was telling Trump, LaCivita's gouging you on the money that is being spent on mailers. But they very much believed, to your point, the electorate that was going to turn this contest was hard to find, doesn't watch live television, voters who either didn't vote in 2020 or voted for Biden reluctantly and now would have to be dynamited off the couch. And so that's why they were looking for all these non-traditional ways, including mailers, which are like the bane of a lot of people's existence, especially during primaries. But if you want to get something in front of somebody, that's one of the few ways that you can still do it reliably.
Guaranteed delivery, right? You know exactly who you're sending it to, guaranteed delivery, highly efficient on doing it. This is why local campaigns live and die on mailers.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, because it is the best way to get to those people who actively avoid politics. They avoid it online. They avoid the television that you would get the ads for. I mean, they actively avoid all the other places that they would get you. If you text them, they'll say stop right away. If you call them, they're going to hit you to spam. I mean, you look at all the tools that we have now, you know, they're not going to see it in their feed because you're not going to be able to get them because you can't find them. So the one way you can do it is there or door to door, right? And, you know, mailers are a really big deal. And not only that, but you expect to get mailers from your local candidates. Like, this is something that we all expect is going to happen. And for people who go out and vote but really hate politics, they'll look through the mailers just to see who these people are, so they know the names that they're going to vote for. If they get a mailer from, you know, a presidential candidate, wow, I mean, this is really different, right? I didn't really think that I would get that. It would actually break through the pile of mail, seeing a picture of Trump. And so I think it was actually really savvy.
All right. What I think is really savvy is everybody who goes out and buys Modern Political Campaigns. The brand new edition is on sale when? When does it go on sale?
It is on sale now, pre-sale. And
pre-sale, perfect.
So everything is all available for people now to go ahead and buy wherever you want to buy your books.
And so you cover AI in the new stuff. Anything else in the new stuff that's added to this?
the new chapter on AI is really about how campaigns are using AI. So it's not about like misinformation. Like there are good books on that from like Sasha Eisenberg and others.
Yeah.
And so ours is really nuts and bolts on how it worked. There's also a lot of talk about influencers. There's a lot of talk about podcasts. There's a lot of talk about all the things that we saw in the last couple of years, where it was pretty clear that those were new venues that blew up, right?
Yeah.
And go into like why it works. Essentially, it's the coin of the realm, and I'll talk about this one more time before we head out. It's really the authenticity piece of all of this.
Yeah.
People are looking for real, and when they're looking at commercials and stuff like that, 30-second commercial, they're like, okay, well, that's overproduced or whatever. But if I see somebody sit down with Rogan for 3 hours, or Call Me Daddy, or whatever podcast, or the PX3 podcast, for an hour.
Sure.
I mean, no one's going to walk away from this saying, you know what, I think Mike's bullshit. It's like, this is what I do. And
they know Mike is Mike. Yeah.
They know Mike is Mike, right? And they're going to know that Justin is Justin, and they're going to know all these people. So I think what it really comes down to is like, how do you break through all of the media? It's by being an actual human being. It's by being John Fetterman walking around in shorts at the inauguration. It's these kinds of candidates who are like, you know what, I am who I am, and if you like me, great, and if not, I'm going to go back to being me the day after election day. And so that those are the kinds of themes that I think were really important this time around, that were different, frankly, than 4 years ago.
I very much believe that is part of the thing that Trump has changed in politics forever, is that in a bygone era, especially when we talk about scandals and gaffes and stuff like that, people looked, and I think there is an entire generation of a consultancy class that looked at a campaign like a pitcher in a baseball game, where it's like, oh, okay, well, we gave up a hit. We gave up, and that's all recorded. And it's like, the best thing you can do is run a no-hitter campaign. That's the best thing you can do. And now I think it's totally changed. And part of it is just because we get more information. So we're tolerant of more, we don't stew on things as long as we used to, where it's like, no, hit the highs. You want to hit as many highs, as many memorable moments as you can. If you flame out on things, if you say stuff that's big and ugly and weird, like Haitians are eating dogs and cats on national television, it's going to be here, it's going to be gone. People are going to focus on something else down the road. And so it's like, take all the swings you can. Or
like, it's a TikTok that goes viral. Yeah. I mean, so scandals as they used to be, were things that would like end a campaign. And now it's like, well, we expect these people to be scandalous. All the media we're watching and consuming, is like reality TV, and it's all about how we're all fallible, right? Yeah. So we don't watch perfect television anymore. We don't consume perfect media anymore. Like a lot of the things that we really enjoy about the people that we watch or that we consume is that they're actually real.
The humanity.
The humanity, like, oh, I can't believe I was such an idiot. I did this or I did that. And what they don't like and they won't accept. And this is the big shift. And this is where Trump has really moved the culture, or met the culture where it was and then nudged it a little bit further out, is, okay, well, how do you handle the scandal? Right? Yeah. So like Mike Waltz is on TV this morning, last night with Laura Ingraham, and he doesn't take responsibility for adding Jeffrey Goldberg to a text chat, on Signal. Right? If he just said, hey, you know what, man, that was crazy. I don't know what the hell happened. I don't know how I got this guy's number, but he's on there. It was me. I screwed up. It'll never happen again. If he did that, it'd be over. We wouldn't even be talking about it today. We won't even be talking about it tomorrow, or probably when the PX3 podcast on this drops. But because he denied it, because he looked swarmy when he was talking about it, because Tulsi Gabbard couldn't answer a question whether or not she was even on there. Like it builds and builds. Like, again, it goes against the authenticity thing. We all make mistakes, own up to it. I blew it. Yeah, we probably shouldn't use that as a communication thing, but things were happening in real time, and we used it because we all couldn't get to a skiff. There's a lot of different ways that you can talk about. Yeah, it's a screw up. We probably shouldn't do that ever again. Done. Right? But instead, people are calling for Mike Waltz to leave because they don't like him because he's a an old school Republican, and so they would rather have a Trumpy guy there. And so to me, it's really how you handle the scandals now, as opposed to actually having one.
Whether or not they happen.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Michael Cohen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, boss. Really appreciate it.
And And that'll wrap it up for us today. Politics, 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 written and hosted by me, Justin Robert Young, for Dog and Pony Show Audio in Austin, Texas. You want to email me? It is theyoungamerican@gmail.com. We're going into sleep training with the baby today. Wish me luck. theyoungamerican@gmail.com. If you would like to hit me with a monetary donation, paypal.me/payjury, PAYJURY is where you do it in PayPal. Venmo, by the way, Venmo money's not real. We know that. Scientifically proven. But prove it for yourself by sending me $5 right now, Justin-Young-20. I guarantee you I will gamble it on NCAA basketball this weekend. Cash App is PX3Cash, and if you'd like to send me anything you'd like in the mail, Post Office Box 153184, Austin, Texas 78715. Of course, you can always get our bonus content at TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Sign up. Get on the list. It is $12 a month. That is just $3 a week. Sometimes less. Sometimes less, friends. Or set it and forget it for the entire year. By the time that we come back, we'll be like into primary season in the midterms. By the time that you even think about this again, if you signed up at the annual plan right now. Whoo! Whoo! You love it. You just love it. You love to see it. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Annual or monthly, you can't go wrong for 2 bonus episodes each and every week. But if you're just going crazy, right? If you're just just all over the place, and you want to hear your name read at the end of every episode of this show, the one place you got to do it is at our founding tier, our Titanic founding tier, where those names get read on each and every free episode, like these folks. L3PO, Peepaw, Scott, Middle-Aged Mike, Tom, Sarah Jeannie, Jeremy, Pro Idiot, Chiller Tomatoes, oh yeah, it's Adam, Neil, AB Puppy, Dr. Whiskey, Michael, Fat Tony's PJs from New York, Will, The Borge B, Matthew, Matt, Andrew, Edwin, Sam, Andrew, Phil, Edison, Devon, Paul, a dog named Checkers, Gloria, that's my mom, Jerry, Trucker, John, Berkeley, Steven, and Zombie Doc. You want your name read on the show? Hey, guys, one place to do it. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Sign up at the Titanic founding tier. Next week. Oh, man. Great episodes next week. We have that special election in Florida. And very, very thrilled. Hold on, I got to get the book. I have read the book that I've wanted to read since Election Day. That is Fight by Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnes. They have written my previous 2 favorite campaign books. I will explain to you why this genre matters, why it actually affects where the political meta is, the entire industry is. I will give you my review, and we welcome the authors onto the show. Amy Parnes, Jonathan Allen. Guys, I got so in the weeds with them. So in the weeds. You are going to love it. That's next week. Good week to be a PX3 listener. Till then, it's your old pal Justin Robert Young saying, some shows talk about politics, others talk about politics, still more discuss politics. But this is the only show that dares discuss all 3.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Dog and Pony Show Audio.